Durham 911, where's your emergency?
1810 Cedar Street, please.
What's wrong?
My wife's had an accident. She's still breathing.
What kind of
She's
accident?
down on the stairs. She's still breathing. Please come.
Is she conscious?
What?
Is she conscious?
No, she's not conscious.
Okay, how many stairs did you
What?
fall down?
Huh?
How many stairs?
Stairs.
How many stairs? Calm down, sir. Calm down.
No, 15, 20, I don't know. Please, get somebody here right away, please.
Okay, somebody's dispatching the ambulance while I ask you questions.
It's in Forest Hills, okay? Please, please.
Okay, sir, somebody else is dispatching the ambulance. Okay, is she awake now? Hello? Hello? Tom 911, where's your emergency?
Where are they? It's 1810 Cedar. She's not breathing. Please, would you hurry up?
Sir,
Yes.
calm down. They're on the way. Can you tell me for sure she's not breathing? Sir? Hello?
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most debated and complex true crime cases of the 21st century, the Michael Peterson case, also known as the Stair Case. This story has captivated millions, inspired documentaries, and left the world divided. Was it a tragic accident or cold-blooded murder? Let's break down the facts, the theories, and where the case stands today. In the early hours of December 9, 2001, novelist Michael Peterson called 911 from his home in Durham, North Carolina. He reported that his wife, Kathleen Peterson, had fallen down the stairs and was seriously injured. The call dropped, and a few minutes later, Michael called again. This time, he told the dispatcher that Kathleen was no longer breathing. When the paramedics arrived, around 10 minutes after the 911 call, they found Kathleen mostly lying in a large pool of blood at the bottom of a staircase, with her head and torso leaning against the wall inside the stairwell. As Michael had reported, she was no longer breathing. They also noted that the blood had already started to congeal, indicating that the accident had occurred quite some time ago. According to Michael, Kathleen had been drinking with him by the pool that evening. She also had taken some Valium. She had gone back inside to sleep, leaving Michael by the pool. He only found Kathleen when he went back inside the house. In his opinion, Kathleen must have slipped and fallen to her death on the stairs, under the influence of alcohol and possibly Valium. However, the police thought differently. When they arrived, they discovered that Michael's son Todd was already there. Reportedly, Michael had called him first before calling 911. Why would he do that? In addition, there was far more blood than would be expected from a simple fall. More importantly, the autopsy results had determined that Kathleen had suffered multiple lacerations to her scalp and showed signs of a brutal beating rather than injuries consistent with an accidental fall. These two factors caused investigators to quickly begin treating the incident as a homicide investigation with Michael Peterson as their main suspect. It didn't take long for Michael to be charged for Kathleen's murder, and after over 13 weeks on trial, one of the longest in North Carolina history, the jury found Michael guilty of Kathleen's murder in 2003. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In 2011, a judge vacated Michael's conviction and granted him a new trial. It turned out that Dwayne Deaver, a blood analyst for the SBI and key witness for the prosecution, had been given false evidence and withheld evidence in a series of flawed criminal cases. Because of this and his misrepresentation of his professional experience, his evidence at the trial was considered inadmissible. Michael was released from prison but remained under house arrest with an ankle monitor while awaiting a new trial. By February 2017, Michael was already in his 70s and financially drained from his legal battles. Facing the prospect of another unpredictable trial, he entered what's known as an Alford plea to the reduced charge of voluntary manslaughter. An offered plea is a unique legal mechanism that allows a defendant to maintain their innocence while acknowledging that the evidence against them might be enough to convict them at trial. Though officially found guilty, Michael still maintains his innocence to this day while quietly living in an apartment in Durham, this time one with no staircase. So, did Michael really kill Kathleen? Let's look at the bare facts. When Michael called 911 at 2:40 a.m., he stated that he had found Kathleen still breathing. She only stopped breathing when he called a second time at 2:46 p.m. Now, the paramedics had arrived at the Petersons' house within 10 minutes of his initial call, but the paramedics speculated that she had been dead for at least 30 minutes before their arrival. According to their testimony, the blood pooling around her had already started congealing. It was no longer fresh. Moreover, according to experts, including those hired by the defense, Kathleen had suffered severe blood loss for at least 45 minutes before she stopped breathing. So, the chances of Michael having discovered Kathleen still breathing just minutes before calling 911 were incredibly low. Investigators also found what appeared to be cleanup attempts on the wall near the stairs. Luminol testing on the floors showed bloody footprints going to the bathroom and various areas in the kitchen. Additionally, they discovered blood splatter between the legs of Michael's shorts and his bloody footprint on Kathleen's clothes, which suggested he was standing over her rather than finding her after an accident. Here's another interesting fact. Kathleen's feet were smeared in her own blood, but she was wearing flip-flops when police arrived. And then there's the autopsy. Aside from the blunt force trauma, the medical examiner found that Kathleen had several scrapes and bruises on her face and a fracture to the cartilage in her throat. She also had bruising on her arms and hands, which were typically associated with defensive wounds. These are not injuries you get from a fall, especially if one were to fall backward on their head. Just looking at these facts, it's easy to believe that Michael is guilty of murder. Though the prosecution brought out a possible murder weapon, a blowpoke, Michael could have just banged Kathleen's head on the stairs a few times, which accounts for the blood spatter and the lack of cast-off on the ceiling. This action would also help explain why there were no skull fractures, brain swelling, or bruising on the brain which were usually seen after a beating. Now, if Michael did murder Kathleen, the question we need to ask next is why. According to the prosecution, the Petersons were struggling financially. They had $143,000 in credit card debt. Michael had no income for the past 2 years. Kathleen was the sole provider of the family, and she was worried that she might get laid off. But she did have a $1.8 million life insurance policy. This alone can be considered sufficient motive. But investigators also found thousands of gay male pornography images and conversations on Michael's computer that showed him arranging hookups with men, including a male prostitute. There were also printed copies of these emails in a drawer. In one of his online messages, Michael had written that he was happily married to a dynamite wife, but that he was very bisexual. Michael claimed that Kathleen knew about his bisexuality, which he took to mean that they had an understanding that he was seeing men on the side. However, Kathleen had divorced her first husband due to infidelity, and her sister stated that Kathleen would never have accepted it. So, the theory is that Kathleen found the photos and conversations when she used Michael's computer that night. And this led to a heated confrontation, resulting in Kathleen's death. Based on what we've seen so far, the staircase seems to be a cut-and-dried case. But before we close our books on it, let's just briefly talk about the 2 other theories floating about online, the "it's all an accident" theory. According to the defense, Kathleen had tripped walking up the staircase, fell backwards, and hit her head on the doorframe, which caused some of the lacerations and the extensive bleeding. Then, dazed, she might have tried standing up again before slipping on her blood, causing her to fall again, resulting in more lacerations. The bloodstain pattern on the wall could have been caused by her coughing. First of all, it's hard to picture someone falling backwards, standing up, and ending up the same way again several times. Second, the injuries to her face and throat cannot be explained if Kathleen did fall backwards. And third, there was no blood in her throat according to the pathologist, which negates the theory that the blood splatter came from Kathleen coughing up blood. And then there's the owl theory. According to this one, Kathleen was attacked by an owl while she was in their front yard, ostensibly placing Christmas decorations there in the middle of the night. The lacerations on her scalp were created by the owl's talons. Kathleen struggled with the owl and got away. She headed inside the house, went all the way to the back stairs, and tried to go up, possibly to get the first aid kit. Hurt, disoriented, and bleeding extensively, Kathleen fell down the stairs, which resulted in her death. Before you start thinking it's crazy, it should be noted that there were microscopic owl feathers and wood sliver found in Kathleen's hair, and some experts have stated that the wounds are consistent with an owl attack. Moreover, this theory explains the blood drops on the pathway and the inside portion of the front door. However, there are other experts who claim that owl talons couldn't cause such deep wounds. Moreover, there have been no record of human deaths from an owl attack. In addition, there were no big feathers at the scene which should have been present had there been a struggle. More importantly, why did Kathleen try to go up the back stairs and not the front? Better yet, why didn't she just go to the downstairs bathroom to clean up? And last, but not the least, the crushed thyroid cartilage as well as the blood spatter on the wall cannot be explained away by this theory. So, did Michael kill Kathleen, or did an owl do it? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more true crime stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.